Just play it, and we're just going to kill it right now. You know why we're going to kill it right now?
Why?
Because I just drank some Chimera coffee, baby.
Beautiful.
Homie, I am in the zone right now.
Uh-huh.
You know why?
Why?
Because those nootropics are
In the
kicking
Chimera coffee,
in
right?
the Chimera coffee.
Okay.
I didn't have to take any bottle of nootropics and scoop it in. It's already inside the coffee.
Genius.
You know what's even better?
What?
The taste.
Taste it. You know what it tastes like? Like chocolate.
Yeah, man. No. And yeah, guys, if you're listening, we're not kidding. I mean, of course, we're sponsored, but we're saying this because we really do enjoy the coffee.
For sure.
And not just that chocolate taste, but you know what else is really cool?
What's that?
It doesn't have that aftertaste that we always talk about.
That's right.
Bitterness. So there's if you guys are coffee lovers, if you drink coffee, there's like a certain taste at the end. It doesn't have that.
It has like a smooth finish.
Yeah.
That's what I like to say.
Oh, I like where you go with this.
Like velvet.
Yes,
like,
you are.
Like velvet, like melted chocolate velvet.
Like a velvet rabbit.
There you go.
But
finish.
Not.
Yeah.
Yeah, just strong.
Go to chimeracoffee.com, type in the coupon code showtheART. No spaces.
No spaces.
Leave spaces at home.
Yeah.
And you'll save some money.
How much? How much money?
Don't matter. You're going to save
give
some
the percent.
money.
How much percent?
Man.
You know what? Because some of us are broke. And you know what? That 10%,
it's at least 10%.
That you're saving is going to help you out.
You never know. Might be more on a good day.
Yeah. Yeah, you keep playing around. You'll
play
get a little bit more.
Right?
Yeah, you play your cards right.
Yeah.
All right? Guys, Chimera Coffee.
Do it.
What is going on, guys? You're listening to the Show the Art podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Ames. Alongside with me is my boy, Abe. Abe, how you feeling, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Good to go, man. I'm excited because online with us, my main man, we have a UFC veteran, Renzo Gracie's first black belt.
Yes, 80cc veteran and excellent Jiu-Jitsu and MMA competitor, Ricardo Almeida. How are you? Thank you for coming on.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, man. It's really great to have you on. Ricardo with us, he's a New Jersey guy, so anytime any of his fighters or his BJJ competitors are on, we're always rooting for you guys because East Coast got to represent.
Yeah, for sure. You know, we don't have that many of us here. You know, it feels like the epicenter of like MMA and Jiu-Jitsu is more out west. But,
Yes.
you know, we represent for sure.
Absolutely, man. So, Ricardo, can you give us a quick rundown of like how your journey into martial arts first began?
Yeah, so believe it or not, I started Jiu-Jitsu when I was 15, but I was actually, you know, growing up in Rio de Janeiro, growing up in Baja, you know, different neighborhood, you know, like there's more fights there, like people fight more, you know. My dad wanted us, me and my brother, to be able to, you know, be comfortable, you know, defending ourselves and just have the confidence. So actually, he did Shotokan karate when he was younger.
Okay.
So we first did karate. I did karate for about a year. Mm-hmm. And a friend of mine from high school, Marcelo Rezende, who actually runs Gracie Baja in Australia now. Okay. He's like, Ricardo, what are you doing, man? You can't be doing karate. You got to come to Jiu-Jitsu. And, you know, for a little while, we went back and forth. And one day he brought me to Gracie Baja, and I never left. You know, I just fell in love with Jiu-Jitsu on the first day. Yes. I came home and I was drilling moves on my brother, like in the carpet, getting carpet burns. And about a year later, I brought my brother in, and my brother brought like a lot of the kids from our neighborhood who today actually run Gracie Baja schools all over the world. So, you know, but it all started like with my friend from high school bringing me to Jiu-Jitsu, you know. Wow.
And then, so how did you end up meeting Renzo Gracie?
All right, so when I first started training, right, like Gracie Baja was very small. There was basically at the time 4 big jiu-jitsu schools in Rio. Okay. Gracie Baja, which is like a little bit further south from downtown. Then in Ipanema we had Masters, which was run by Jacaré from America Cavalcante, who runs Alliance these days with Fabio Gurgel.
Yes.
And we had Carlson in Copacabana, and we had Gracie Humaitá, which was Horner School. So those are the big 4 schools at the time, you know. And when I started training at Gracie Baja, man, like, Renzo was the only black belt besides Carlos Gracie Jr. You know, he had, like, all these guys, Gordo, House Gracie, Roleta, like, all this incredible crop of world champions. They were still colored belts. None of them were black belts yet.
Wow.
So Renzo was kind of like Renzo was kind of like a hero, to all of us.
Yeah.
Because he was he was younger. Master Carlos was like a little older, so, we had like this respect him. But Renzo was young. He was fast. He was competing at the time. So we all really looked up to him.
Wow.
And in 1996, Renzo moved to the United States to open a school in New York.
Okay.
And in 1997, he was opening a school in Philadelphia. And because I was born in New York when my parents were going to grad school. And we have a mutual friend who knew that I was kind of, I was in college at the time. I wasn't really liking what I was doing. I was trying to figure out what was going to be next.
Okay.
I wasn't training much jiu-jitsu. So this guy's like, hey, Ricardo, you want to go to the United States? I'm like, yeah, I'm down. I'll just leave everything and I'll go. So
there you go.
he talked to Renzo, and I was a brown belt at the time. And I moved here. I sold my car, I packed 2 suitcases, and I moved here. I lived with Renzo and his family for like 6 months.
Whoa.
I taught classes in the Philadelphia school. I'll ride the train to New York a couple of days a week to train in Manhattan with Matt Serra and, Sean Williams and some of the old school guys from Renzo's.
Wow.
So, yeah, Renzo just believed in me. He brought me here. He put me in his home, and here I am.
That's great, man. It's always cool. I always like hearing the stories of how everyone first started, because it's very similar. You start off with like a rough background, and you train, and sometimes you even sleep in the gym, and you wake up, you clean the mats or whatever. So it's really cool to see like how your story began.
Yeah. And do you have any cool, fun Renzo Gracie stories? Because we always hear about Renzo just, I don't know, he always has great stories. Do you have any stories about him?
Man, I don't know. Like, there's so many stories with Renzo.
Yeah.
But I think if I had to, like, pick out one, or probably one time, me, Renzo, and his late brother, Garry Gracie, we were, I can't remember if we were driving to JFK or if we were driving back from JFK.
Mm-hmm. Either way, that's a terrible trip.
Yeah, so we were in New York, like somewhere around the Bell Parkway, and Ryan started picking on Renzo, just the 3 of us in the car.
Oh, no.
And, they get in this huge argument, and they start cursing each other off, and Ryan knew how to push Renzo, like he'll pick on him, like a little brother trying to see, how much you could get away with,
Of course.
So I'm already starting to get a little nervous. I'm quiet in the back, and then next thing I know, Renzo just slams the brakes and pulls up to this little area on the side of the road. There was like a bunch of grass, and he gets off the car and he's like, you know what, Ryan? That's it. Now let's go. We're gonna fight. So Renzo gets off the car, and then Ryan gets off the car because he didn't want to stand down because I was there probably, And I was like, man, I just had my eyes in the back of my head, and I'm trying to figure out, like, what am I going to do? Like, if I stand in between them, then they're both going to jump me.
I know. They'll both tap you out.
What do I have to do? I just rolled the window down, and I was like, come on, guys, please, let's not do this. But I wouldn't get out of the car either,
Yeah, you got to stay safe.
So Renzo walks around the car, and by the time Renzo had a Suburban at the time, so by the time Renzo gets to the other side of the car, I was like, "Come on, Renzo, I love you. I'm sorry, you're my older brother."
Wow.
And I just had the biggest, deep breath and sigh of relief I probably ever had in my life.
You know what's funny?
Great.
That reminds me of like when you're a kid and you're driving in the backseat and your parents are in the front and they're arguing and you're just like, Mommy, Daddy.
You just don't want to get into it.
Yeah, you don't want to get in the middle of something. Wow, that's a great story. Yeah, and then what happened after that? You guys just drove away. Everything was
like
cool?
Nothing happened, right?
I think then we just drove to Everett and we were. I can't remember. We might have been going to Abu Dhabi to compete. I can't remember. It was right at the time that first couple of times we went to ADCC, we used to go out of JFK. So it might have been one of those times.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
Yeah, they're everyone's ready to go. Everyone's fired up and ready.
Yeah, so true.
Right?
Now
I was just scared of ending up in jail with both of them mad at me.
And you get jumped in the middle of the cell by the 2 guys you got in there with.
There goes that.
Now, what is some of your jiu-jitsu training like? If we could go a little in depth into you personally, when you practice, maybe in the height of your jiu-jitsu career, how did you practice? Were you doing a lot of drills for repetition? Were you doing a lot of flow drills? Were you doing a lot of live sparring matches, a lot of positional grappling matches? What were you doing specifically to help you get to a high level?
So to me, like at the time, I think first thing to understand is when I first moved from Brazil, Renzo's school was huge, but there was only really a couple of high-level belts,
Mm-hmm.
So it was basically me, Matt, Sarah. Renzo was training a lot at the time, and we had a couple other guys. But it was very difficult to just have that. That sometimes you walk into any big jiu-jitsu school, right, and you have a bunch of guys who are better than you, and if you just roll with them, it's gonna make you better.
Sure.
Yeah.
But when you start to reach the upper echelon where you're one of the guys with the most experience,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have that many guys that actually push you, you have to, I think, every single day learn to put yourself in bad positions to make any training session count. Like even if you're training with a white belt and a blue belt,
Yes.
you take chances and you learn to be in bad positions and you fight out of those bad positions. And I think that makes your defense better for those training sessions that you have someone that's actually pushing you and making you tired,
Yes.
So I think that's one element that I remember clearly. And I think the second element is you can't be selfish,
Mm-hmm.
You can't just kind of come in and get your training and leave.
Yeah.
Because you're left with no training partners, like you have to really make a conscious effort to make people around you better.
I see.
And that's a decision that I made early on when I moved here to the United States, and I think, of course, from Renzo's influence, Renzo is such a giving person,
Yeah.
So we always had a very big conscious effort of really making the students better so that in a selfish way, in return, we'd have better training partners.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think those are two philosophical ways to approach it. On a daily basis, I would just really compete. I wanted to be the best guy in the room.
Yes.
Even though I wasn't necessarily looking to be better than Matt or Sean Alvarez or Renzo Gracie at the time. It wasn't so much about beating them, but I think it was winning every exchange. If I'm passing the guard, I'm going to pass this guy's guard. If I'm on the bottom, I'm going to sweep it. I'm going to get out of the bottom. I think that as a competitor, every inch that you fight for, you have to be wanting to get. You can't just train aimlessly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think more on top of that, as soon as we got here, we started. I went to a wrestling practice, and that was really big to me, going to a wrestling practice where you do a lot more drilling than you do live.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily the full drills that a lot of times you see jiu-jitsu guys doing, It's just, wrestle by, it's kind of like little wrestling bouts, where you try to take the guy down, he's only trying to defend.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that type of specific training of isolating specific situations and trying to do them maybe 50%, 60%, and then going live.
Okay.
I think that is really good.
Sure.
I like drilling. I think that you do get a lot of muscle memory from drilling. But I like more drill bouts, where, okay, we've drilled a little bit, and I think that's what I'd like to see guys do more,
Nice.
You drill a little bit, and you kind of got that muscle memory down. Now let's go live from that position specifically.
And then you keep trying. Then from there, you get a lot of opportunities to fight against a resisting opponent. And then win or lose, we just restart in that same position. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. As soon as you make something happen or as soon as you drop the ball, you go at it again and again and again. Because sometimes one of the hardest things to do, it's to just get a dummy. You know what I mean? Hey, come over here. Let me drill on you. That's a very... it's a very selfish thing in a way.
Sure.
Sometimes you drill a couple times and the guy drills a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the next level after that is you start to create those situations in training.
Yeah.
So if let's say I was working on a De La Riva or a deep half guard, as soon as I go train, some guys that maybe are not as experienced, they can't really stop the move. I would go and do the move over and over, hit it over and over. And so I felt like I was hitting the move over and over.
Yeah.
Then I'll get someone a little bit more experience after that, and then someone a little bit more experience after that. But I think it's really not necessarily whether you drill or you roll or you do drill bouts or you visualize. I think the most important thing is the deliberate intent each and every time you step on the mat to be better,
Yeah.
I think a lot of guys A lot of guys just come to class or they go to train and they're comfortable with being taught jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? Like, they're there, but it's someone else's job to make them better. You know, it's the team's job to make them better. And I really believe that, you know, mentally, you have to have a conscious effort to improve. And you have to have in your head, like, the clear things that you want to accomplish each and every training session, or maybe each week, you know. But to have that intention, I believe that's important.
Now, can you give that advice to white belts, blue belts, everybody, or is there a point where that can, where somebody who's training won't get that until a certain level? Like, once they get to blue belt, then you can say, hey, listen, now you got to start coming in and being a little bit more specific with your training. Or can you give that advice to everybody in your experience training, you know, people?
So I think it's hard to give general advice, right? Because everyone is at a certain level. Like, everyone is at a certain stage in their training journey, you know?
Yeah.
I think that I really believe that's one thing that all of us, the jiu-jitsu community, needs to get better. Right?
Okay.
Like, I think that the only way we're going to grow as a community and share the lifestyle that we all love so much is, I believe that jiu-jitsu schools fail is to bring a white belt to blue belt, right? I think that's where the rubber meets the road. Once someone reaches blue belt level, I think they're a lot more apt to train. Like, they've embraced the lifestyle, they understand what's going on the mat. But to get people from white to blue belt, it's really tough because people really need many times a transition on how they face learning, right? We all face learning, going to school. It's like, man, I can't, you know, oh man, like, it's a grind and it's a hustle, and you always hear negative words being associated to learning. And you have to be positive. It has to be something that you enjoy. And I think the people that make that shift are the people that stay with jiu-jitsu the longest. But I think, to me, the main advice that I have, and this is from white to blue belt, and this is where a lot of jiu-jitsu schools fail, you know, like, and really something that I am passionate about is making sure that people that start don't quit, but it's learn to enjoy learning, you know, like, learn to embrace change and adapt. And to try to shy away from shortcuts. Like, I really believe that any shortcut eventually becomes a dead end. And I'll give you a couple examples of positions that were prominent in jiu-jitsu through the past recent years. You know, for a little while, it was the 50-50, right? Like, 50-50 was this thing that everybody used, and it's a very strong position. It still works, but you don't see it as prominently in competitions anymore.
Sure.
You know? And then it was the age of the berimbolo. Everybody was doing berimbolos. You know, every freaking purple belt, you know, all they wanted to do was berimbolo. And truthfully, you don't really see them in competition as much anymore. Now, even the Mendes who kind of made them move famous, don't use them as much anymore. You know? And now I feel like it's a little bit more the age of the leg attacks. You know, guys are doing way more leg locks, and people talk about leg locks being this, you know, the solution to the problem of being good in jiu-jitsu, you know? And it's just a matter of time before people catch up and catch on, and they understand how to deal with it. And, you know, it's going to be a part of jiu-jitsu, like 50-50 is, like berimbolo is, but it's not an all, be all. You cannot, jiu-jitsu is an overall strategy. You cannot try to solve a strategic problem with a technical answer. You know, like, there needs to be layers in your game, from strategic to tactical to technical.
Layers,
you can't.
I'm so happy that you said that, because I've had this conversation with some of my training partners and some of my students for a while now about that exact thing, about how, because everybody, you know, leg locks is so prominent and popular right now. And it's becoming, it's gaining this aura about it where people are saying it's this unstoppable force. But I did the exact same comparison to leg locks as the berimbolo was and the 50-50 was. Like, I'm so happy that you said that, because that's exactly what I've been thinking. First, something gets introduced as powerful, everybody starts drilling it, gets inspired by it, and then we all catch on. And then we move on. Then something else comes along, and we all start drilling it and catching up with it. Then we move
evolution.
on. So eventually, leg lock. I mean, this is good because now it forces everybody to get good at something that might be a gaping hole in their game, and that's what leg locks. You know, the leg lock movement right now is doing. right now everybody's adjusting and being forced to get better at this one particular aspect that actually has been kind of neglected for a long time. But then eventually, I believe in a year or two, everybody's going to catch on. Everybody's going to be at a very good level in the leg locks that I believe it's going to start opening up the rest of the game again, at least for the no-gi players that are really pushing that movement. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to finish, to make it a little bit more absorbable for the people that are just starting, like any shortcut in jiu-jitsu eventually becomes a dead end. Like jiu-jitsu is is a very organic thing. It's constantly evolving, and it comes around full circle like the seasons. Like if you're around it enough, you see positions come and go, and then come back around again.
Yeah.
And my push for my students, right, like my advice is to try to be well-rounded, When you see something new like that, I think, the guys that don't like leg locks, their first instinct is like, oh man, this is horrible, this sucks, like it's dangerous, this is for guys that don't know jiu-jitsu. That's kind of like a little bit of the Brazilian mentality, And then you have guys who are more open-minded and they want to try it, and then you have guys who, oh man, this is what you gotta know, I'm only gonna do leg locks from now on. And I really feel that the people that are willing to have open-mindedness and who are deliberately trying to be well-rounded, right, on the mat, and off the mats too, but on the mats, to have takedowns, to have guard passing, to have sweeps, to have, leg locks and leg lock defense, and to know, to implement the position, the hierarchy of positions in jiu-jitsu, to be able to understand that and teach it and pass it on. I think the people who are well-rounded are the ones that are going to stay with jiu-jitsu long-term.
Yeah, sure.
And the people who are specific, they might be able to go teach a leg lock seminar or a green ball seminar or this and that and the other. And, 3-4 years from now, nobody wants to see that.
That's true.
See it,
yeah.
So, Abe,
yo,
we have a no-gi class today, right?
Yeah.
What are you going to be wearing today? Are you going to be wearing like a sweater with shorts? Or are you going to be wearing like the pants with a tank top? You going what?
Usually for jiu-jitsu, we wear some board shorts.
Okay.
And like a rash guard, like a tight-fitting rash guard.
Now, any kind of rash guard, like I could go to like a sporting goods store and get a rash guard, or are we talking specifics, brother?
We're talking specifics. If you want a good rash guard that's not going to tear up when somebody is moving with you on the mats,
that's what I want.
You need an inverted gear rash guard, my brother.
Ooh, inverted gear. Is that the one with the panda?
It's with the upside down panda.
Oh, that's even. Get at me.
Panda.
But am I going to feel good with it?
You're going to feel good. You're going to look good. You're probably going to perform good because of the last two things.
You know what? Yep. You're absolutely right. Now, where can we go to get some of these pandas, brother?
As corny as it sounds, invertedgear.com.
There you go.
Hey, go to invertedgear.
Sorry about that, but do we get any? Do we get any kind of discounts? Are they hooking it up?
Yes.
Is what I'm trying to say.
Only listeners get this discount. So
okay.
Don't give it out. Show the art 15. No spaces.
No spaces.
No.
Leave it at home.
Leave it at home.
Leave that home.
Show the art 15 at the checkout in the cart.
Mm-hmm. Don't be shy. Yeah, type that in, guys. Let's save some money.
15% off. That's big money when you're buying gis and rash guards and gear.
You know what happens when you save that 15% or that 10% or any kind of percent?
What?
You could buy like an acai bowl right after training, brother.
Boom. Or a Gatorade.
Or Gatorade. There you go.
Boom. Or
your electrolytes.
Just lunch.
Oh yeah, because all the money that you save, you could buy me the acai bowl and Gatorade and lunch.
Well, I'm not the one that needs.
On that note, guys, thank you so much. InvertedGear.com.
Boom. One of the most well-rounded guys that comes to mind actually is a guy that you were a part of giving him his black belt, and that's Garry Tonon. He's very much well-rounded. Wrestling, guard passing, leg locks. He does it all. He likes to take the back. He likes to play jiu-jitsu wherever it goes. You don't ever see him just going for one particular game. And, what's your relationship with him?
So Garry is a Tom Deblass student, right? Tom is my black belt. And I first met Garry when Garry was 16 years old, and Tom couldn't make it to one of the Grappler Quests or one of the local tournaments. I can't remember if it was Grappler Quest or Naga. And Tom called me and said, man, I have this student. My student is the 16-year-old kid is fighting in the adult division. Can you please coach him? I'm like, yeah, sure. And I saw Garry, and Garry was actually fighting the open weight as a 16-year-old fighting this huge guy. And he ended up winning the whole thing. And I always had like a good relationship with Garry. He's from South Jersey, about an hour from where I am.
Okay.
But he went to school at Rutgers, which is about 20 minutes away from my school, you know. So for the whole time that he was in college, for the 4 years that he was in college, he was training at my school a lot, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've been to California with him, you know, a couple of times we went to fight at Pan Am's, and my brother's from California, so we stayed at my brother's house. And I've had a good close relationship with Garry through the years. Now he's training more in the city.
Yeah.
But I really feel exactly what you guys are saying. The reason why Garry can be successful with the leg lock game, I think is number one, because he's well-rounded. Like, he's got good jiu-jitsu everywhere, you know. And then it just perfectly suits his style and his personality. You know, Garry is, I don't want to say reckless, but he's like, it's like a reckless abandon. You know, like he doesn't really care. And it really is because his defense is amazing. You know, like rarely you're gonna see someone even get close to a submission attempt on Garry. Usually it's the other way around.
Yeah,
you know?
He's a risk taker.
That's what makes him so successful. Like, man, like if you go with Garry, like I'm a bigger guy, so I could put, you know, he was a brown belt, I'll put him on submissions and he just get out. You know, like you can't submit the kid, and when he gets you, you know.
Yeah,
true.
So that makes you successful in the sub-all-elite tournaments.
Sure.
You know.
And if you're not afraid, if you're confident in your escapes and your submission defense, you will not be afraid to go anywhere. You won't be afraid to take the fight anywhere. You'll take as many risks as possible, knowing that, hey, even if I mess up, I'm still going to get out. I'm still confident that my escapes are better than their attacks. That's such a powerful tool. That's something that we can all look into a little bit more and spend a little more time, instead of worrying too much about, you know, the trend of popular moves. We can always go back to saying, hey, I got to work on this defense. Defense is going to save my life.
Yeah. And even with Garry, you know, like I think that's the difference that people need to make the distinction. One thing is being good, and another thing is winning competitions. You know, like generally you have a good guy that wins, you know, the division, but it's not always the best guy that wins, you know, in a tournament. And you see that in every sport, you know.
Definitely.
And Garry tends to fight at 150%. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't know how to fight unless it's, you know, like his soul is coming through his ears. You know what I mean? Like, see like the bottom of his soul. You know, you can see his soul in his competition. And I really feel for a guy like Garry is so good that if he just made a pact to himself that he was going to compete at 80% and play a more tactical game, like he'd really be unbeatable. You know, like if he was slightly more. And he wins a lot more than he loses, but some of the matches that he loses is because he's not willing to take that tactical approach.
Sure.
Which is perfectly fine, you know, by all means, he's very successful. But I'm using Garry as an example. Sometimes in competition, to win, it's not about doing more or going harder, it's about doing less and going like a little bit more strategical rather than, you know, all out, I feel.
I see. Ricardo, I wanna flip it real quick. One thing I really admire about you is that you decided. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but you decided to retire and dedicate all your time more to coaching at your academy and for your family. So, what was it like making that transition? Because now you're coaching like the best guys on the East Coast, and it's really cool to see. So, what was that whole transition like?
Man, you know, I wanted to be done with MMA before MMA was done with me. Smart.
Yeah.
So I feel like, you know, pro sports, any sport, you know, like you have to kind of pick your spot and leave at the right time.
Okay.
You know, I wanted to leave still loving it, still wanting to be a part of it, instead of leaving it like, man, like this thing took my soul from me, you know?
Yes.
But, you know, the guys that I have now are more or less the guys that I had at the time. You know, we've had a couple guys, but, you know, back then it used to be me, sparring Frankie, Eddie Alvarez, who just kind of moved back to Philly, and he's here training with us.
Okay.
You know, I was sparring with him when I fought Matt Brown back in 2010, I believe.
Wow.
So, you know, it's the same guys, you know, it's like a small group.
Yeah.
But as far as the transition, you know, like, I've had more time to dedicate to the schools. I am way more on the math teaching class. Some side projects too, you know, like I'm me, my brother, and a couple of partners were doing a big project with Gracie Barra in Arizona.
Okay.
And we opened the first school last year. We have 2 more coming this year, and probably like 5 more next year. So we're doing like a big project here.
It's growing.
It's allowing us to do cool things. But from the competitor side, when you go from fighting into the UFC into just kind of going back and not competing, it's not easy,
Yeah.
Sure.
You go from, being in the spotlight to not being in the spotlight, depending on who it is. It's hard to deal with it,
I'm sure.
Like the best way I can describe it is if you're a dragon slayer and there were just no more dragons.
That's awesome.
I never heard that one. I like that.
You could go fight lions and you could go, shoot rhinos, but it's not a dragon.
It's not a dragon.
It's
wow.
not the same.
Now speaking of, yeah, sorry.
Even for competing in jiu-jitsu tournaments, it's of course it's amazing to be able to go to an IBJJF tournament and compete at the Masters level. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
But I don't dedicate the amount of time that I used to. So my body doesn't move the same.
Okay.
So it's like you take a Formula One car or like a NASCAR, and you go do, just go around a racetrack in the local, track day on Sunday. It's just not the same. It's not the same feeling. I can't. As amazing as it is to still be a part of competition, the competitive side is not the same, but it's something we deal with. And I talk to my guys, I want Frankie, Eddie, Mon, Edson, these guys to be with martial arts for the rest of their lives, as good as they are as pro fighters. I want them to leave it with passion and loving it because it's good for us.
Yeah. Now, what is it like being a part of championship teams? Like, you're a part of a championship caliber team. You have a guy like Eddie Alvarez. You're a part of the reason why he became champion. You're a part of the reason why Frankie Edgar was so successful and a champion. What is it like being a part of a championship caliber team? And what do you, being behind the scenes, what do you attest to them being champions? Like, what do you think are little pieces about them that no one really knows that can help explain how they became champions or why they're so successful?
Yeah, so, I've had the luck or the privilege to train 3 UFC champions, Frankie Edgar and Eddie Alvarez. And I really believe that as far as the coaching, a big part of it has been my teamwork with Mark Henry, who was a striking coach. He's
amazing.
He's very interesting. He was my coach, he coached me, and he's a very passionate guy, and he spent so much time, he got obsessive compulsive disorder, man. Like, this dude, he spends his whole time watching video, and he'll be sending me messages in the middle of the night about something he saw in a video, he's incredible,
I hear his note-taking is crazy.
Yeah, besides being an amazing person, we videotape every session. We watch a ton of video on our opponents. So we really have a lot of scouting and video. We use video a lot, not only for scouting, but for correcting our guys, Yeah. But as far as Frankie and Eddie, I think one element, man, it's these guys will be champions no matter where they went, champions in jiu-jitsu and in MMA.
Yeah.
They're not born, they're not made, they're self-made, I think those guys... we work together well as a team, but man, those guys are incredible. I think that wherever they were, they would be champions. I can't take necessarily credit for that.
Absolutely.
And I think that coaches do too much of that in MMA. Because it's like a bigger thing. It's like, oh man, I trained this guy, and I'm gonna go write a book about.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write a book about what? Like, how can I? Like, he should have been champion. If anything, if he wasn't a champion, it would have been my fault.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh man.
So what I see about Frankie and Eddie, and I don't know if it's the culture that we have on our team or if it's necessarily them. It's number one, they're extremely humble. These guys, they want to work and they want as much information as possible, and they digest that information and they turn the information that we're giving them into action on a daily basis on training sessions. But also, you could give these guys one tip in the middle of the fight, and they will just adapt on the spot immediately.
That's
Yeah. And sometimes we spend so much time together on the mat that I could just look at them in the eye, and they kind of know exactly what I want them to do on that specific situation. And sometimes they will even kind of nod at me. But and I think the second thing for them, it's just man, it's just a work ethic, you know, like it's just a whole different level. You know, sometimes guys think they train hard, but like they really don't.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And just the amount of punishment those two are able to go through and still come back. I don't know if that's something you're born with, you know, but man, just that desire to overcome and not give up and to stare, to be at the bottom of the barrel and still find a way out. You know, like that's something very unique. And from all the fighters that I've been around, I think that if I had to pick one thing and train someone from scratch, you know what I mean? Like if we had a video game and you had to pick the attributes for the fighter, I think the main one I would pick would be that, you know, like that just, you know, desire and perseverance and that die-hard attitude on a daily basis. I think Frankie and Eddie have that. I don't want to say more than the other guys, but they're able to express it more often, you know, in training sessions and fighting and in everything that they do. You know?
I get you. Absolutely, man.
Now, do you know what's next for those guys? Like, I'm a big fan of Eddie, a big fan of Frankie. I'm a huge fan of Barboza.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, my God.
That's my
Barboza's
favorite fighter right now, Barboza.
Do you know what's next for them? Obviously, you know, you don't have to give away anything crazy, but do you know what's next for them? Do they have any fights coming up soon, hopefully?
No, I think right now it's just, I think Frankie is pretty close to being scheduled to fight on the New York card.
Nice.
Perfect.
You know, Eddie got this thing going between Connor and, you know, Connor wants to come and win 2 belts and Eddie's doing, and man, I'm just, like Connor's gonna do what Connor wants to do, you know what I mean? Like who knows if he's gonna go do a movie, like you know, who knows what he's gonna do, you know?
But you also
All
have
I know
Khabib.
is that, there's Khabib too, so who knows what's gonna happen with that. I think Edson is just waiting for a call for the next fight, you know? And then we also have this kid Marlon Moraes.
Okay.
This kid is like he's the champion of World Series. This kid's like a freaking like ninja, man. He's a Muay Thai fighter. He's got unbelievable takedown defense, great takedowns. His jiu-jitsu is getting really good. His no-gi jiu-jitsu is really good, and he's really embraced, you know, both Edson and Marlon have moved here to New Jersey, and they've kind of embraced the team mentality, you know, so he's also someone, we'll probably be fighting in New Year's.
Sure.
Who else? We got Corey Anderson, who won the Ultimate Fighter. Very greedy, hard-working kid from Illinois, and he moved out here and lives here. I think Caitlin is going to fight on the New York card, so we have a ton of stuff going on.
That's great, man. I'm rooting for all these East Coast fighters, man, to represent. Hopefully, I really want to go to that UFC card in New York. I haven't been to one in a long time, but in MSG, we can't miss that one.
I'm sure you'll be there backstage coaching somebody, right, Ricardo?
Yeah, if Frankie fights, I'll be there.
There you go.
Know, if she fights, I'll be there. So I'll be there for sure.
Man.
Try to see how that's gonna coincide with Nogi Worlds. I have a couple of guys that want to go do Nogi Worlds. You know, like I have like a handful of guys who still do compete at a high level in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So I try to support them as much as possible. I was at Nogi World last year. So.
Will you be at the Nogi Pans in New York City?
Man, I'm actually subscribed to it. But last time I checked, there was nobody in my division.
Oh, snap.
I had a really bad back injury. I was like on a crutch last week. But if I could feel loose enough, I'm gonna do it. Man, I had a car accident last year, and I've had like this crazy back spasm that comes and goes.
I see.
And for some reason, this thing came back with a vengeance last week, and it really bent me backwards. You know what I mean? Like it's all. If I can loosen up, I'll do it. If there's somebody in my weight class, I'll do it. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, man.
I haven't checked because they closed the registration, then they open again, so I'm not sure what's going to happen.
Yeah, I was actually trying to register for it last night, but it was closed, and it's just this big mess. But in any case, I hope to see you there, man. If you do make it, I hope to introduce myself and see you there. That'll be awesome to meet you in person.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Yeah. So I think. Ricardo, we don't want to take too much of your time. We know you got a busy day, got to do like family errands. So thank you so much for jumping on the podcast with us. But before we leave, do you want to shout anything out? Your academy, where people could reach you, email, anything?
No, man, like for people that want to train, if they live close to us, come check us out. It's going to change your life without a doubt. And even if, someone's listening to this and they might be considering training, if they're looking for a school, just, feel free to find me like on Facebook, on Instagram, and I'm always happy to recommend places. Like it's, I got the schools here in Jersey. I got a bunch of my students who have schools in South Jersey.
Okay.
I have a school in PA too, and then we have this huge stuff going on in Arizona. So if anyone who lives in those areas and you want to train, come see us.
There you go. Thank you so much, Ricardo.
Thank you, Ricardo. We really appreciate it. You are one of the guys that are the epitome of our title, of our name, Show the Art. You are an artist, and like I said, we look forward to seeing you coach more excellent fighters, and we hope to talk to you soon, brother.
Thank you so much, guys. And thanks to all the listeners. See you guys soon.
Hey, take care, man.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Guys, thanks a lot for listening. If you like our podcast and you want us to continue to provide all these fun, entertaining, and educational, all this good stuff, please give us a good rating on iTunes, on any website that you can find us at.
Share it,
download it.
Don't be stingy.
Yeah.
Don't be stingy, man.
Don't
hold on to this.
Don't go on the torrent sites and download us. Just go on iTunes.
Yeah,
it's free.
Give this gift to everyone else that you think this could be.
Give the gift that keeps on giving. And that's Show the Art
And that's
podcast.
us.
And check out our newsletter. Each month we're giving away free stuff. And we're going to be starting contests exclusively on the newsletter.
Get that fresh gear.
Yeah. So all you have to do is subscribe to it. If you go to our Facebook page.
It's easy.
It's easy. There's a link there.
Put your name, your email, and we'll take care of the rest.
We'll take care of the rest. And we won't bombard you. Trust me. I'm not about that bombarding.
We're not
life.
about that spam life.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
So,
Abe, let's go train, man. We out.
Bye.
Peace.